Live. Everywhere. On netrootsradio.com. David Waldman. Kagro. In the mornings. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It is Thursday, July 24th, 2025. I guess tomorrow we get to get 225, so stay on track for that one, and be sure to go and buy your lottery ticket. Although, I don't know, do you want to buy it a day ahead of time for the 25s? I guess if it's one of those drawings that only happens every couple of days. I don't know. You tell me. I don't play enough lottery, I guess. Which is to say I play exactly the right amount of lottery. Okay. Well, time to roll today. Hey, by the way, no show in Utah today. If you're in Utah, turn the show off. It's Pioneer Day. I didn't even know what Pioneer Day actually is, but I recently found out that there was such a thing, and I guess it's a Utah Mormon type public holiday, and we don't have it here. But there you go. All right, well, you know, I don't know why. Don't we love pioneers? I guess everybody left here and went there, and that's why they're celebrating there and not here. Although I guess that must mean we missed you terribly when you left, and we're very sad that you left on Pioneer Day, an official holiday celebrated on July 24th in the U.S. state of Utah, with some celebrations taking place in regions of surrounding states originally settled by Mormon pioneers. I am semi-reliably informed. That is to say, I went and looked it up just now. Oh, okay, it comes from Wikipedia. That actually, you know, all the kids who grew up in the last decade or two who were told prior to the advent of AI, I guess, not to rely on Wikipedia. Now Wikipedia is probably your most reliable source online, whereas if you just go to Google and ask it, it might make up anything. You never know. So anyway, many offices closed in Utah, and production staff in their day jobs do a lot of work with Utah remotely, although sometimes not that remotely. They have to get on a plane and go there all the time. Anyway, they're closed, and that means day off for some of us, so that's nice. Happy Pioneer Day, everybody. And what better way to celebrate Pioneer Day than finding out what Pioneer Day is and the fact that it exists? You can't ask for much more. However, you will get much more. Greg Dworkin is here to tell us about the Jeffery Epstein way, I guess, of celebrating Pioneer Day. And so we'll bring him in with a fanfare that has a little bit of a villainous touch to it, one of the ones we've had in stock. Got to find out what Jeffery Epstein is up to. Oh, well, he's not up to much. Greg Dworkin knows that. We don't have to report on that fact. But peripheral to Jeffrey Epstein. Good morning, Greg. What have we learned?
Good morning. We learned you must pay the rent.
Exactly.
I can't pay the rent.
You must pay the rent. And
I'll save you.
Right. Did you have the little folded paper fan thing?
Yes, of course.
Oh, okay. I'm
It
sort
be
of
a bow
wondering.
in your hair or a bow tie or a mustache.
Yeah. Exactly. So we learned
That's
that
what going
as
to
kids
camp
too.
is all about, right? You learn those things. Hey,
Right.
You know what else I learned today? National Paul Bunyan Day is June 28th. We missed it. But, Talk Like a Pirate Day didn't come up till September.
Right. That's when I should, by the way, associate that with more or less with the end of the fiscal year. That might be a way for me to remember. I always am surprised by Talk Like a Pirate Day. But they're very stealthy people, pirates, and they sneak up on you. That's the whole
Exactly.
point. Okay.
So with the list that I sent you before we do this show,
Yes.
pulling back the curtain and breaking the third wall,
We
we put out a list,
sure.
which is to say I put together
We'll
a
call it
list of
third
things
wall.
I'm probably going to be talking about, and sometimes I tell David, and sometimes I surprise him with a video. I didn't today. But we're going to start at the bottom of that list and just mention a couple of quickie things just because I thought they were interesting.
There's Paul Bunyan Day. Yeah, okay.
All right, so we're going to start with a fellow named Mike Lawler. A sleazy, sneaky, I pretend to be a moderate, but I vote with the absolute most conservative Republicans there are. Every time I challenge them, I am absolutely positively 100% 24 karat guaranteed to fold. I'm going to fight for SALT, the state and local tax deduction, which is so important to New Yorkers because their local property taxes are so high,
Yes,
and I
very
won't give
salty
in an
people.
inch until I give up everything for nothing
Oh
because
well.
that's what I do. And so he was threatening, he was making noises that he might vote, to get rid of everybody's Medicaid, screw up Medicare, get rid of Obamacare, uh,
All the
uh,
cares.
you know, pay for ICE but not pay for anything you actually need, and not do anything useful, and then run for governor.
Perfect.
And then he would have to be in a primary with Elise Stefanik, who's
So
also
they could
not ready
fight.
to announce that she's running for governor either. The bottom line there is that Lawler's um, internal numbers must be terrible
Hmm.
because he announced yesterday he's not running for governor. Everybody thought he would
How?
be. I'll just stay where I am
Sure. Well, just
if
like
I
Elise
can.
Stefanik isn't going to be UN ambassador. She's just going to stay where she is.
Right, which is to say doing nothing because she quit,
Yeah.
or she
Awesome.
should have quit. And if she didn't quit,
Well,
she's not
she
doing anything.
she quit her leadership position, I think,
Yeah,
and
I
then
mean, unfortunately, she's
was
still
like,
in the house
why
making
am I
noise.
still here? I don't know what
But
to
the
do.
funny thing is
Yeah.
that they saw a year ago in their minds after the November election, Kathy Hochul
Mm.
was a wounded political figure who'd be an easy win.
Mm-hmm.
Lee Zeldin did surprisingly well against her, even though she won and beat the Republican Lee Zeldin, who's now the EPA administrator.
Right.
Zeldin's mask is off too. He used to pretend to be a moderate, and now he's head of the EPA and trying to destroy the earth.
Yeah,
That kind of thing. So if you
like
have a villainous
Galactus.
fanfare, he deserves it. But
Oh, yeah.
Hochul has
Dun, dun,
made something of a
dun.
comeback. At the time, she was very wishy-washy about whether or not she wanted to support um,
Anything.
congestion pricing in New York City.
Right.
It
Great
was
success, this is.
something she wasn't sure about because New Yorkers loved it, but Long Islanders hated it. They're the commuters, and she didn't know, and she didn't know what to
Work on Long
do. And
Island.
I'm for it, but I'm against it, but I'm for it, but I'm against. Turned out congestion pricing is doing fabulously well, so
Mm-hmm.
well that Trump is upset with it
Yeah.
because New York's a blue area, and he just doesn't want blue areas to do well. So
Right. Don't succeed in
Hochul
anything.
has made something of a political comeback. Remember, she's only governor because she was Andrew Cuomo's lieutenant. Cuomo stepped down for scandal, which is why he didn't win the
Which is why he's running for
New
New
York
York
City mayoral
mayor.
primary. And Hochul is the governor, and now she's actually doing fairly well.
Hmm.
And one of the things that
She
she's
should have a
done,
scandal.
which I found much more interesting than this whole intro, is that
What?
she's actually stepped up her social media game. Now, the way
Hmm.
prominent political figures do it is they generally have two accounts. Their official, Governor Ned Lamont,
Hmm.
button down, blue blazer, red tie, white shirt, very formal. I always do everything correctly. And then some of them have a very edgy social media account,
Yes.
like
Based
Based
Kathy
Mike
Hochul.
Lee,
Okay. Yeah.
except, sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Kathy Hochul has stepped up her social media game on her second, social media account.
Okay.
And so I sent you a couple of examples, which I
Hmm.
thought were pretty good. So yesterday, Mike Lawler announces he's foregoing a run for governor. Kathy Hochul's social media account, and let's give credit to the interns who actually do this, but it's
Hmm.
under Kathy Hochul's name, so she signs off on it. And it's a picture of a box of old-fashioned milk-bone dog treats.
Yeah. I
Okay, if
see.
you look closely up in the right-hand corner, upper right-hand corner, it says made in the USA, Buffalo, New York. So,
Oh.
she's got everything there in terms of politics.
Yeah. Holy cow. Nice job.
But you have that box,
Hmm.
and on it is a post-it, a sticky, and it says to Mike Lawler.
Hmm.
And the
I
caption that
see.
she put on
Ah.
it, it says Kathy Hochul, a treat for Donald Trump's good boy. And it says to Mike Lawler, which is pretty funny, actually.
Yeah. Can he
And
balance it on his
then
nose?
she's got a couple of things to say about Lee Stefanik, like you're scared because Stefanik said, I'm not going to announce whether I'm running or not just yet.
Hmm.
And then yesterday, lead into today's show, I suppose. If you want to think that this is planned, go right ahead. Kathy Hochul, again, the official account, no one is surprised, released the file, she says, in response to the
Hmm.
Wall Street Journal bombshell from yesterday, exclusive, the Justice Department told President Trump in May that his name is among many in the Epstein files. That's the
Yes.
headline. And,
We only find out
Hochul
now.
says no one is surprised, release the files. So
Right.
she's putting pressure on Republicans to release the files. And that's really the story right now. Now, a Florida judge said, I'm not releasing anything you asked me to release because it's confidential. Some of
Yeah.
it's child porn, and we're just not doing it. And you
That's
knew we
why-
weren't going to do it,
That's
and
why
we're
you
not
asked
doing it.
me. That's why you asked me to do it rather than you trying to do it. You knew it couldn't
Yeah.
be released, and you would just blame me for it.
And the fascinating part is the stories that are covering this did not put this as, Trump managed to deflect pressure because he got DOJ to ask the courts, and the judicial side said, no, we're not releasing any more records. That's not what it said. It said Trump is frustrated because he can't make this go away. He tried doing it this way and it didn't work. It's the very same
All right.
story,
Well,
but,
that's good.
again, all of a sudden we're having like a normal, actually that's what happened angle to it.
Huh.
Instead of everything Trump does is three-dimensional chess and he's a genius.
Well, that's nice. I can appreciate that. That's a good day.
Right. So that's a very good day. So let's get to it. This is exclusive Wall Street Journal. Justice Department told Trump in May his name is among many in the Epstein files. Pam Bondi also told the president, that would be the attorney general, at the meeting that Justice decided to not release more Jeffrey Epstein documents because of the presence of child porn and the need to protect victims. The very same things we told you would be the reason why a lot of this stuff won't come out. So
Yeah,
this
I guess so.
sounds accurate, but the fact that Trump's name is in there is no surprise. Like everybody said, well, duh.
Yeah. They wrote to each other all the time.
But
We
the
have the
fascinating
birthday
thing
cards.
is the details of this meeting. Now, when you have a meeting like this with Pam Bondi and Trump, how many people attend?
I don't know. Is
10?
he wearing a towel?
8, 14? I mean, 4? There aren't that many. Certainly
guess.
less than a score, you'd think.
Yeah. It wasn't a cabinet meeting because there's cameras there all the time. Where they all have to say something great about.
But
Trump.
this was
It
a
wasn't
secret
there.
private meeting where
Yeah.
they're leaking every detail.
AG president. Yeah. I mean, there's probably.
Who is it, and how do
Yeah.
they not know who it is already?
Yeah, that's a good.
There aren't that
question.
many people there. Is it Pam Bondi? I mean, who is it? Who's
Yeah,
doing it?
and
Is it
remember that
Trump?
it's the news isn't that his name is in the files. I mean, we all guessed that already. It's she told him at this meeting, so that's
Which he's already denied that he knew. I didn't know
Yeah,
anything about it.
That's true. Which is another.
Well,
angle. But okay, yeah. So that's got to be
Details of
small
meetings
circle
suggest
of
Trump is a
people.
liar could have been the headline,
True.
and that's really the point. And so
They threw us the other bone, the other milk bone.
yeah. So when the media, when the news reporters, when the people who were supposed to be at the press pool, except now it's his own influencers, decide that they want to write that Trump is a liar, they can any day of the week. They always
It's
have
always
material.
there for you.
He lies every day.
Right.
And the fact that they're doing it about the Epstein files is one of those things that keeps the story going. Wait a minute. What's the story? Well, Trump was friends with Epstein. Well, we knew that. Well, okay, Trump was told he was in the Epstein files that Republicans are pushing him to release, and his not releasing it is putting pressure on all sorts of Republican parts of his coalition, including electeds. Well, okay, that's sort of an interesting story.
Yeah.
Well, given
The fact
all of
that it
that,
happened in May
we
is
asked him
kinda
about it, and
interesting.
Trump lied about it. That's my page one story
Yeah.
now.
That's true. I mean, right. That's an interesting. They sort of backed into that one this way. We find out now that this meeting took place in May, which one means that okay, it's been known for a long time, but that his name would be in there, I think everybody had already guessed. But that she told him in May, and then came out and said much later, we're not releasing anything. And anyway, there's nothing to release. Those things that are on my desk aren't on my desk. They don't exist. Or he's
Are you
not
worried you're in the
it,
files?
or-
I don't know anything about it.
Right. And now we find out now, well, since May, they've actually
Actually,
had
they
that sit-down meeting like, Mr. President, I got to tell you, you're definitely in there. A lot.
Right.
But-
So, they do their official, just to be fair thing, the TBF
Oh,
codicil. They always
Critics
have to. I mean,
say.
it's reasonable.
Yeah.
In May, Bondi and her deputy informed the president at a meeting in the White House that his name was in the Epstein files. The official said many other high-profile figures were also named, Trump was told. Now, that line alone is fodder for the QAnon MAGA side who wants to know everything. What names?
Right.
What high-profile figure? What are you talking about?
Sure.
Being mentioned in the records, the Wall Street Journal said, isn't a sign of wrongdoing.
Yeah. Pam Bondi probably said the same thing.
But we've said forever, as we say in New York, that it's not about whether or not he's going to be prosecuted for this. That's not the point. He's going to be embarrassed about this, and it's clearly going to show that he's been lying about this all along. Those are the things that matter, not whether or not there's a DOJ referral from this, which won't matter because DOJ is the one doing all of this stuff, and they're not going to do anything except what Trump tells them.
Right.
But it's in the public interest to know that Trump was involved in this. He knew more than he's saying, and he lied about it.
Yeah.
Now, MAGA will say, well, that's the job of the president. The executive is supposed to keep stuff from us children, and they're supposed to lie about stuff so that we don't get worried, and that's his job, and you people, whatever.
Right.
But news reporters say, well, let's just get the whole story out here.
Yeah. And, of course, part of the story is, well, what the files say is that you were lying about this before you were president as well.
Yeah.
So
the officials said it was a routine briefing that covered a number of topics, and Trump's appearance in the documents wasn't the focus. And that's probably true. But that doesn't matter. He's the president, and he's in the damn files. That's what matters.
Right. Exactly. And, and while it's not necessarily an indication of any criminal wrongdoing, I mean, she essentially had to say, well, you're in there a lot, and it's you and a couple other people and a pile of child pornography. And what can I tell you? It's,
right.
Am I going to release it? No, because you're in it, and so is a bunch of child porn.
Right. And here's the innocuous, and why the little skinny guy with glasses just stating the facts winds up being much more threatening than the big muscular guy who don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. Trump said last week in response to a journalist's question that Bondi hadn't told him that his name was in the files. That's what matters here. He lied.
It's not a lie if you believe it.
It's not a lie if I can make you believe it.
And then a couple of things could happen. Could be just a straight up lie, easy, and probably true. There's also the very distinct possibility I don't remember anybody coming to my office and telling me anything ever. So
right. So one of the things about Washington at night, and I haven't been to Washington in a while, and certainly not at night.
It gets dark at night, and
it gets dark, and therefore you can project things on buildings, and people do.
All right.
And so I just sent you at the bottom of the list there a picture of the Chamber of Commerce building.
Chamber of Commerce building? Okay.
What's projected on it is President Trump release all the Epstein files in that famous photo of him smiling next to a smiling Jeffrey Epstein together.
Yes.
Him looking about 30 years younger.
They probably were.
100 pounds lighter.
Yeah, and 100% less dead on Epstein's part.
Yeah. Anyway,
about 60% less dead.
No, it's not
for
going
Trump.
away. Every night they do this.
Yeah, and I guess I've been waiting for Republicans to try to pass a bill to make that illegal somehow. Like that's trespassing with light.
Right. Now, details of Bondi's meeting with Trump hadn't been previously reported. Trump's advisors had for months said they would release the files, and Trump, while at times equivocal, indicated he would support the release. Well, that's what he does. Yeah. He tells people what they want to hear, and MAGA wanted to hear he was going to release it. He had no intention ever of releasing those files. Trump supporters, including some now serving in senior roles in the administration, that would be to say Bondi and Bongino, and Patel, claim that the documents would expose global elites and powerful Democrats who spend time with the disgraced financier. That implicit promise and explicit promise to his supporters that he would release these files because it would involve Democrats is why they are so upset that they haven't been released.
Yeah.
The decision not to release the files has triggered the most serious backlash from Trump's political base since he launched this bid for the White House a decade ago, with a vocal group of the president's allies seeing the move as a massive betrayal. I'm reading this this morning. Yeah. It was written yesterday. That doesn't sound to me like it's going away, and Trump says don't pay attention, and therefore people are listening.
Well, your mistake
is
you should
the
be
Monday
reading,
stories all say.
Yeah, you should be reading the Monday paper still. Then you would be much more compliant.
Right. Trump has told administration officials in recent weeks he wanted the growing public attention on Epstein to go away. He probably told that to all those newspapers as well. But they're not listening.
Hmm. Well, he'll have to sue them each for $20 billion.
Wall Street Journal also has in their possession at least one page from the, quote, leather-bound album, end quote, of birthday letters to Trump,
That's
from
the
which
way
that
finding is
salacious,
usually done.
drawing that Trump did came from. So they
Yes.
have that.
Leather.
The grand jury testimony makes up only a portion of the more than 300 gigabytes of Epstein-related material the FBI compiled, and the grand jury stuff won't come out, at least according to a Florida judge. So, again, none of that stuff is going away. The New York Times gave Wall Street Journal the exclusive, of course, for a couple hours, and then updated themselves. Attorney General alerted Trump his name appeared in Epstein files, so it's not just the Wall Street Journal doing this.
No longer exclusive.
So that's now the story officially.
All right.
And it's of interest. Now, this essay pops up in the New York Times. It's by a fellow named Barry Levine. I'm not that familiar with him, but he wrote a book, The Spider Inside the Criminal Web of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
Okay.
And according to the blurb, he began reporting on Mr. Epstein in the mid-2000s. This is sort of interesting.
That's good.
I covered the Epstein case for decades. These are the 9 questions we need answers for.
Yeah, as an editor, is there any way we could narrow that? I guess not. So there must be 9 important questions. All right.
Well, yeah. In fact, there are 10.
Like,
but,
what time is it? That needs to come out.
The 10 is how come Pam Bondi doesn't get politically and professionally, not personally, not physically, but physically, politically and professionally, how come she doesn't get hanged for this?
Yeah,
because she was there. She was the
perhaps.
responsible person in Florida that decided not to press charges against him. And how is it that she's now
the Attorney General?
a little bit professionally viable? So number one question, how did Mr. Epstein make his money, and how did he finance his sex trafficking over 2 decades?
It's interesting that we have to ask this question.
Because we know about Leslie Wexner, the L Brands founder, including Victoria's Secret. We know the Apollo Global Management co-founder Leon Black, for whom Epstein provided consulting, but it's still not clear how Mr. Epstein amassed such a large fortune, or how he was able to fund such a complex trafficking scheme, which everybody says he did. That's not much in dispute. He had $600 million, and not all of it was from Wexner and Black. And then, of course, usual standard codicil, neither Mr. Wexner nor Mr. Black has been accused of wrongdoing by law enforcement.
Right. That's been my job. I accuse them of wrongdoing.
And so my question, the number one question is not only where did the money come from, but for the 2 named people where you know the money was coming from, how come they haven't been charged?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think they may have been also paying them for semi-legitimate reasons, actually.
And this is from a guy who's covered this, so it's not made up stuff. Mr. Epstein imported young women and children from Russia, Belarus, Turkey, and Turkmenistan, according to an investigation conducted by Ron Wyden's office.
I think you'll find that if you conducted the investigation, you'll find that Donald Trump did the same with Trump model management. But okay.
This trafficking was presumably expensive. Treasury Department files reviewed by Mr. Wyden's staff members detail, among other things, 4,725 wire transfers, adding up to $1.1 billion associated with just one of Mr. Epstein's bank accounts. So we need to follow that money. This is the same thing that Ron Wyden is saying. And so that's why it's the number one thing that needs to be followed up. And that's got nothing to do with not accusing people who don't need to be accused or repeating gossip. This is hard, investigative. FBI can do this kind of thing. Follow the money. Why haven't they?
Well, that last part, that the FBI can do this sort of thing, I'm not so sure that it still can. But even if it can, it won't, because the director doesn't want to.
Right. And we're going to continue with this after the break because we won't get to all of them. But the number 2 question here, which is brought up because MAGA brings it up, did Mr. Epstein have any ties to spy agencies? Some have speculated Mr. Epstein might have been acting as an intelligence agent. This was made by Alexander Acosta when, after the 2016 presidential election, he was being vetted for Secretary of Labor in Mr. Trump's first administration. In 2008, as the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, Mr. Acosta agreed to a lenient and heavily criticized plea deal. When asked why, he said, "I was told Mr. Epstein belonged to intelligence and leave it alone."
I was told. Oh, okay.
That's what he said.
That
That's
does
why
ring a
that comes
bell.
up as a question.
That's a good
Now, if you're
reminder.
anti-Semitic, you immediately go to, obviously, it was Israel. And so, that's what MAGA says. Attorney General Pam Bondi said this month she didn't know whether Mr. Epstein was an intelligence asset to him being an agent. "I have no knowledge of that. These FBI files could help resolve the matter." If he was an intelligence agent, the intelligence agency should know. So why did you ask Tulsi Gabbard?
That's a good question. And it's because she could be making up the answer.
They're all lying, but these are good questions. It's, I didn't really care
it's
about
a fair
the intelligence
question.
asset, but if MAGA's going to bring it up publicly, why don't you get to the bottom of it and actually answer the question?
Or lie. Let's have a lie about this one. Come on, you've lied about the other 9 questions. What's up?
And the big one, number 3, are there references to Mr. Trump in the files that add to our knowledge of his relationship with Mr. Epstein? We all know he was friendly. A model named Stacey Williams accused Mr. Trump of groping her in the presence of Mr. Epstein at Trump Tower in 1993. They claim his campaign denied. Another Mr. Epstein victim, Maria Farmer, said that in 1996 and 2006 she urged the FBI to investigate Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Bondi told Trump his spring that his name appeared in the files. The context in which his name was raised still remains unclear. Like, you can look at this and say, okay, there isn't information that would lead to a prosecution, but we do note that 23 different people suggested that Trump had groped or otherwise went after them. We don't have enough evidence to prosecute. We're dropping the case. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. But, if you can't prosecute
that's purely speculative on my part, but what if it says something like that?
Right,
or
3? Trump was known for not wearing pants most of those parties. Oh, well, that is interesting. I would think that would bear on something. Let's find out. Hi, everybody. It's me, David Waldman. Yes, the same guy who interrupts you all the time. Interrupting you one more time just to tell you again, another reminder that your contributions are what keep this show on the air, and Patreon.com, Patreon.com, is still among the easiest ways to make the sustaining subscription donations that keep us afloat. Are you ready for the pep talk about how our Patreon campaign is still going strong and growing? Well, too bad. Yeah, the plain fact is we actually are headed in the wrong direction, and whereas we once had about 175 monthly patrons, we're now actually down below 150. Time to recruit some more. Not exactly the kind of news I wanted to share, but there it is. For those of you in a position to support the show, Patreon.com does make it easy to make those secure, recurring monthly contributions to do so. Patreon.com/KagroX gets you straight to our donation page. We've been through a lot together. The worst of the pandemic, we hope. The worst of the insurrection, we hope. So go ahead and treat yourself. You don't need an excuse. Give yourself the gift of a little something you enjoy in life. Support the show. And of course, if you happen to prefer using PayPal or even the Square Cash app, we're up and running on those options too. So thanks again, everyone, for all your support. We couldn't, or at least shouldn't, do it without you. Hope you'll be on board soon too. Thanks for all your support. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. We're still talking about Jeffrey Epstein, largely despite the fact that the President of the United States, whose office I respect tremendously and who never wears tan suits, you'll notice, has asked us not to. However, I feel compelled because something, make America great again.
He doesn't wear tan suits. He wears tan makeup. He wears the tan on his skin.
That's true. That is highly disrespectful to the office. I don't understand why they allow him to wear face paint into the Oval Office as though
he also uses hand paint, by the way, because his hands are bruised because he's not well, and his feet swell, and he's probably in worse shape than but they lie about everything. So
that's okay. I'll be just as happy if his illness or death comes as a shock and surprise to all, just so long as it comes.
So the next question, number 4, is what about Bill Clinton? And there's really not much here. We don't know. So we went over the whole thing about this author goes into the detail about what we do know, which is that Clinton has been on Epstein's plane, that they knew each other. Once Mr. Epstein said to Virginia Jeffery, one of the victims,
Oh, yeah.
who I believe has since committed suicide.
Yes.
The first of Mr. Epstein's victims to go public, Mr. Epstein told her that Mr. Clinton owed him a favor.
Okay.
We don't know what that means.
Right.
So that's what MAGA wants. MAGA wants a full accounting of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Number 5, who were the clients implicated in Mr. Epstein's sex trafficking operation?
That's
Of
what
course,
we're
the first
supposed to
name
want.
on that list is Alan Dershowitz.
Yes. I guess that's true. Even though he says he kept his underwear on, which is not
Mr.
actually
Dershowitz wrote
exonerative.
that the identities of Mr. Epstein's clients should be disclosed, but the courts have ordered them sealed. I know who they are. They don't include current office holders. We don't know whether the accusations are true, he says.
All right. He should keep his underwear on his head. Stuff it in
We
his
don't-
mouth, and then we won't have to
Ms.
hear about
Jeffery,
it.
who died by suicide in April, said that Mr. Epstein trafficked her to multiple men, including Dershowitz. Dershowitz denied it. She may have made a mistake in accusing him, she said. Others she accused have denied wrongdoing, including Prince Andrew. So you're mentioning all the names. So
Oh, well.
number 5 question is, who are these people, and did the FBI do anything to try to verify any of it? That should be in the files. Not
Brett
necessarily
Kavanaugh.
who the names are, not whether or not they're guilty, but it's like asking about Brett Kavanaugh's
Mm-hmm.
vetting by the
Right.
FBI. If we saw the files, we would find out, did they actually do anything, or did they just walk by the office and say, okay, I checked it out?
Looks good. I asked AI. Grok, is Brett Kavanaugh guilty?
Yeah.
No. What do you know? That's amazing.
No.
We didn't have
Right.
Grok.
Nobody
at the
was a
time,
Nazi. Well, Grok accuses everybody of being a Nazi. So
Somebody
that's not
did
really
this.
true, but, you can't believe Grok.
Right.
Can we?
Can you believe the FBI? No. Not anymore.
Question number 6. Who helped Mr. Epstein overseas? One associated with Mr. Epstein was a French modeling scout, Jean-Luc Brunel, who faced his own allegations of sexual assault. No. According to a lawsuit filed by the Attorney General of the Virgin Islands, Mr. Epstein used private planes, helicopters, boats, and other vehicles to bring young women there, and that led to the molestation and exploitation of numerous girls between 12 and 17, according to legal papers. And the Miami Herald, who owned this story and actually can help us determine what's truth, fiction, and speculation. Mm-hmm. The Miami Herald has reported that the U.S. Marshal Service recorded the names of passengers in Epstein's planes when they arrived at airports in New York and the Virgin Islands. Homeland Security released some of these documents pursuant to a Freedom of Information request from the Miami Herald, but the names were redacted with the exception of Mr. Epstein, so they have a list.
Okay.
So what was going on there? Number 7, what did investigators find in Mr. Epstein's safe, computers, and other property? The answer to that's probably child porn, but we don't know that for sure.
Right.
Number 8,
keeping on
what did the video show? Same thing.
Okay.
And in fact, the story says Mr. Epstein's estate was said to have located an unspecified number of videos that it said might contain child sex abuse material. And the FBI could provide more details even without showing us the files. They could tell us what's in those files.
Yeah, I mean, lousy job, but...
Right. Number 9, and the last of 9, what is in Mr. Epstein's autopsy report?
Do we really?
Were DNA tests performed on the bedsheet that Mr. Epstein was said to have used to hang himself? If so, was there any other DNA not his detected?
Well,
did investigators question inmates in nearby cells? We know the camera had gaps in it. We know a lot of other sloppy, stupid stuff was done by incompetent people in that position of watching over him. But seeking answers to this and the other 8 matters is the least we can do, not only for Mr. Epstein's victims, but also for a nation that badly needs to restore its trust in government. Well, I would venture to suggest that depending upon the Trump administration, to restore its trust in government based on what they do with the Epstein files is not a likely outcome.
They can't do it no matter what happens here. And it won't be enough to restore trust in government because they've destroyed it in 10,000 other ways. But these are an interesting set of questions, to be sure.
They've set themselves up for failure. because MAGA will not believe anything they say now.
Yeah. Well, that's true. And
Number four, what about Bill Clinton?
right.
I don't care about this other stuff, but what about Bill Clinton?
Right.
Well, for all the reasons we just outlined, we're not going to do anything else and we can't trust you. Aha! You're a
Yeah.
traitor to the
Honestly,
QAnon
though,
cause.
with QAnon, like if they said we give up, we're releasing it all of it. I don't know. And then let's say they say,
Well, what didn't you release?
well, right. Well, no, but let's say they actually say we release it all. And if Bill Clinton, if it didn't say in there, oh yeah, he raped like 19 people, they would say this isn't
Oh, they
all
got
of
to
it.
him too.
Yeah, right. This isn't all of it. You're hiding something. This is, or the Jewish space laser erased it from the page. Whatever it takes. So,
Right.
yeah.
This is a Washington Post story, and what's important here is the date, updated yesterday at 8:31 p.m.
That's a time. But
Trump
you did say
struggles to contain furor over Epstein as House lawmakers seek subpoenas. They're not just seeking to avoid the whole issue and run away, which we know. We talked about that yesterday.
Some of them are.
Some are seeking subpoenas. Republicans struggled to contain the fallout of the Epstein files as House Democrats sought to take advantage of the issue while they head home on recess. So, you're going to run away and the problem's going to go away, right? No. Democrats are going to go explain, like Kathy Hochul, release the files. You need to do this, only they'll do it in their home districts. And Republicans who go to their home districts are going to be bombarded by MAGA people who want to know why you're not releasing the files.
So they say. Yeah.
Three House Republicans. Remember, the House majority is not all that great. It's more than three, but it's not 10. 3 House Republicans supported a measure introduced by Representative Summer Lee, Democrat, Pennsylvania, to demand the Justice Department release the files. Under House rules, the full committee must now issue the subpoenas.
Yeah.
James Comer has to figure out what to do. Near future.
Yes.
They said.
Near future.
They could have easily have said 2 weeks or 50 days, the new 2 weeks.
Oh.
But we don't know.
Yeah, well, there's some ups and downs to this, but in the main, very good thing. One, they had to change a number of Republicans. They pressured a number of Republicans. They got scared, like I can't be on the record voting no on these subpoenas to get the files, so we'll vote yes. And they probably were reassured. Well, don't worry because, you know what happens. What does this administration, what does every administration do with direct subpoenas from Congress? They tend to ignore them. And they probably reminded themselves, well, you see, the thing with a subpoena from Congress is, one, the Trump administration will ignore it. And two, then the next step is you could say, well, do you want to hold these guys in contempt of Congress? And I guess they're just not thinking ahead to, well, then you have to vote on whether or not you want to do that. Are you going to vote no on that one? And then, of course, they could have reassured themselves with that and say, well, who prosecutes contempt of Congress? They'll never have to press those charges because the Department of Justice, through the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, prosecutes those. And they get the discretion whether or not to bring those charges. So they just won't. Except they're still not thinking this through because this puts it to now it's a question of, well, who's telling the U.S. Attorney not to prosecute contempt of Congress? And the obvious answer is Bondi and Trump. And oh my God, it's back on my desk. How did it? I thought we had it all rigged to blame the judge. Why is this back for me?
Yeah, and here's another convolution of the weasels that we currently have in Congress. So there's all sorts of pressure from MAGA for at least some Republicans on the Oversight Committee to vote with the Democrats, with Summer Lee, and issue subpoenas. Yeah. And they feel like they can't avoid the pressure because if I don't do this, I'm not getting reelected in the next Republican primary.
Right.
It's a very red area, but I'm really scared of this. I'm going to have to vote yes. Okay, how do I get out of this? Well, I'll tell you how. All right. We will vote yes, but we will say we'll vote yes with your list. You want to subpoena the Epstein files. I'll go along with that so long as you also subpoena Bill and Hillary Clinton, FBI Director James Comey, Merrick Garland, Loretta Lynch, Eric Holder, and Robert Mueller. You subpoena those people and a bunch of other Republicans that we'll just throw in there because we don't like them, like Bill Barr and Jeff Sessions, and we'll get to the bottom of this, all right? You'll never vote for this. So I'll just include this laundry list here of people that I know my constituents hate, and they'll be able to look at me and say, okay, I get why you voted yes. Wait,
Okay.
we now have a majority and we're actually doing this? Oh my God, what do I do now?
Right. They forgot the step where they count how many people are allowed to vote yes without anything happening here.
Right.
And
It's unclear, said the Washington Post, why lawmakers felt those officials would be instrumental to hear from. Republicans believe Bill Clinton may be mentioned in the files and appear to be attending to expose correspondence between the former president, attorneys, and law enforcement officials who may have had knowledge of the case. But the cracks starting to emerge in the GOP coalition signal the firestorm over Epstein has far from abated and may intensify as Republicans hear from voters at home during their 5-week August recess. Wait a minute. On Monday, all of these same outlets were telling me it was blowing over.
Yes.
Steve Bannon said so.
Right, they did, and they did take those notes and then publish them. But it turns out not as much as they thought.
James Comer, who should not be confused with Comey, the former FBI head, Comer also issued a subpoena for Epstein's former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, and as you know, the Justice Department is now negotiating with her attorney over who knows what.
Yes. That whole thing is super fishy as well. And it just, they're relying on the fact that there are so many players in this thing, I think, that people are not recognizing what's taking place directly in front of their face. And they're busy using old assumptions about the Department of Justice and what guilty people who are in prison do and don't do. The idea that I guess in olden days you could say the Department of Justice is what? Going to interview her to find out what she knows because people want to get to the bottom of things and get the truth. And, one, who's running this operation? The same people who are saying we're not going to release anything because we're covering up for the president. All right. And two, you're sending the guy who 5 minutes ago, the guy who's doing this interview, which would be very unusual, by the way, for such a high-ranking government official to be sent to this interview. But he's going, is Todd Blanche, who 5 minutes ago was one of Trump's personal defense lawyers. So Trump's defense is going to interview Ghislaine
Trump's fixer
Maxwell.
is going to interview Ghislaine Maxwell to see if there's anything that implicates Trump.
And is
That's
there
all
anything
that
why should
anybody doubt what
you?
happens there?
Yeah, right. And so, I mean, people forget who this guy is, and they know most people. Todd Blanche, never heard of him. Oh yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell, she's bad. She's in prison. She's going to be grilled now. They're going to interrogate her. No, they're going to go in and they're going to say, if you could say, please, for us, that Donald Trump had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein, and I ought to know because I knew Jeffrey Epstein as intimately as anyone, then maybe there's a piece of paper that could make its way from the president's desk to you that would make you a very happy person and maybe even a very free person. And you couldn't be prosecuted for any of this stuff that's keeping you in prison anymore. How would you like that? Would that induce you to say that Donald Trump was never anyone? I never heard of the guy. Right. You're willing to say that? Okay.
So
isn't that
again,
everyone's first assumption?
Just illustrate the convoluted ties that Republicans find themselves in.
Yeah.
Laura Loomer, again from the Washington Post article, Laura Loomer, an influential pro-Trump blogger who's been calling for more disclosures in the Epstein case, blamed Trump's opponents for exploiting his past association with Epstein.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to read you the following paragraph.
And I am going to play probably some
and
sound
you're
effects.
going to fill in the blank for an individual.
Okay. Is it liar? Is that what I'm supposed to use? Okay, that's one blank. Yes, go ahead.
You can't just go accusing everybody who knew Jeffrey Epstein or took a photo with him of being a pedophile, Laura Loomer said. It's absolutely absurd for people to be implying or insinuating for 1 second that, fill in the blank, is somehow implicated in some kind of sex scandal.
It's absurd.
Is it Bill Clinton? Is it Donald Trump?
Donald Trump.
Who is she talking about here? Well, it is Donald Trump, but what if you put Bill Clinton in there? The statement would still stand on its own.
But she wouldn't make it.
Right. And so now you have this problem where the Republicans really aren't exactly sure what to say because anything they say that tries to clear Trump would clear Clinton. And so how do you get out of that?
Well, How about lying?
Because we all know, pizza basement and this, that, and
Yeah.
everything else. And so what are you saying here? You're not one of us. I don't trust you. I mean, they're
Yeah.
stuck. That's Bongino's problem. He
I
doesn't know where to
guess.
turn.
Though eventually, you are dealing with the QAnon crowd. You can say, with respect to Donald Trump, the fact that he appears in the files does not mean he is, in fact, implicated in any of this trafficking or a pedophile. With respect to people we don't like Bill Clinton, actually the opposite is true because reasons. And by the way, have you seen this picture of Donald Trump holding up two fingers when he's at an address, of 123 Main Street? That obviously means that what we said is true. I don't know why that means anything to anybody, but Q says it's true, and Q is made up, so what the hell? Let's do it.
So
They can just do whatever they want.
Concludes,
Yes.
well, it doesn't conclude, but goes on to say, before heading home to their districts, House Republicans were still figuring out how to position themselves on a topic that places them squarely between Trump and their most vocal constituents. So on the House Oversight Committee, the subpoenas were supported by 3 Republicans, Nancy Mace, Scott Perry, and Brian Jack, who's from Georgia. Perry's from Pennsylvania. Nancy Mace, of course, is from South Carolina.
That's an interesting crew.
Nancy Mace switching positions every 15 minutes is no surprise. I'm a little surprised Scott Perry did, but he must feel like he's in trouble at home.
Or that he's in the clear, or he's trading something. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, Scott Perry is right up to his eyeballs in the January 6th thing, but he's being, that's not happening anymore. They're not prosecuting that. So I guess he feels like he's free, or who knows? What a weird, that is a strange crew. I don't know.
Now,
the third
again,
guy.
And this is separate but parallel, 10 GOP lawmakers have signed a bipartisan petition to circumvent House leadership and send a messenger to the floor to release the files. That's the discharge petition. It won't happen until September, but they've done it.
Yeah.
And discharge petitions, like, you can finagle delaying them, but I don't think leadership can totally block them if they have the votes.
Discharge petitions? No.
Yeah.
But yeah, they can mess.
So Mike
with
Johnson's going to have to
they-
deal with this, in other words, somehow.
I guess. And they almost never succeed. And in I think the one instance I know of, and then now I forget the details of a discharge petition succeeding, they managed to manipulate the rules and procedures such that it didn't amount to anything. So it's usually a very long process that goes nowhere. But if it does go somewhere, they can undermine it with rules.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, okay, the discharge petition became ripe and everybody agreed to it. And it basically says we have to do this thing tomorrow. Oh, by the way, we just passed a new rule that tomorrow never comes because we have deemed it always today.
You can essentially do things just like that. We'll see.
And you
whether
think
they
I'm
go on
making
the
this
list
up?
to do
I'm
it.
not making this up. You can do that.
No. I mean, that is to say yes. No, you're not making it up. Yes, it happens. That's true. Yeah, I'm a little baffled at the Scott
I don't get
Perry
it.
thing.
I don't know what their end game is, but they must really
I don't
feel
know.
the pressure. Republican anger seems only to have grown since Bondi announced the case was effectively closed in a memo released less than 2 weeks ago, confirming Epstein died by suicide and there was no client list. Trump had directed Bondi to ask the courts. They refused. Democrats are seeking to take advantage. Duh. And so it's not.
They're trying to get, I mean, that's one way of putting it. They're seeking to take advantage, or they're seeking to. I guess they seem to be seeking to give people what they want, which is obviously a crime.
Yeah. Now, they probably, if you ask them, Democrats would say, we support the rule of law, and therefore, of course, the Department of Justice can ask the courts, and the courts are going to say no in terms of releasing this stuff. We're good with that. That's the way it should be. But that's not what they're going to say publicly.
Right.
They're going to say publicly, release the files. It's not my problem. You're in charge.
Brian Jack. I don't know this guy at all. That is some crew.
Right.
Nancy Mace, you can't figure out ever.
Now, this is a behind the paywall, unfortunately, from Tegan Goddard, who often has good insight.
Please.
And he writes, Republicans hope voters don't notice they fled. That's the title of his article.
Yeah. All right.
House Republicans may be heading into recess, but history suggests political anger doesn't take a vacation. GOP leaders abruptly reversed course this week, canceling plans to stay in session, all to avoid a vote on releasing the Epstein files. The move is a clear bet that Americans will be too distracted by summer vacations and beach weather to notice.
Yes.
That's a risky assumption. Democrats are doing everything they can to keep the Epstein scandal in the headlines. Now, the Epstein scandal is in the headlines.
Yes. Right now.
It's not in the headlines because Trump successfully accuses Democrats of orchestrating all of this, and so the newspapers and other media are running with that angle. That's not true. They're running it on Republican disarray, and Trump doesn't know what to do. What my point is for all of you who always say the Democrats are terrible, they can't do anything, they don't know how to message. If, in fact, they are doing everything they can to keep the Epstein scandal in the headlines, they're orchestrating this pretty darn well because their names aren't in the headlines. And, is it true that all of a sudden they become super skilled at messaging? No. It means that this whole thing about messaging is overrated. If it's a topic that writes itself, it does, like this one. And if it's a topic that doesn't write itself, messaging can't change that.
Okay. Luckily, this one does write itself. This is their only play. It's difficult to see any other path for them, but it does come down to that. So the one downside, I think, of the whole subpoena play is, well, they've subpoenaed them, but then any enforcement of the subpoena and any decisions about what to do about eventual non-enforcement of the subpoena has to wait until they return, at least until they return in September. And the first order of business when they return in September will be trying to pass appropriations bills to keep the government open, so they'll be able to point to that. That's our top priority, which then pushes, consideration of any non-compliance with the subpoena into October or possibly November or December.
But that's another way of saying the story's not going away.
Yeah, I mean, the story can still be they're still trying to figure out what to do about these subpoenas, or I guess their only hope is, well, I don't think everybody's going to forget about it, but there's two things we can do here. We can stay here and broil and also not be able to control this story, or we can escape and run away, and some of us will be able to find a plane ride to somewhere that a reporter can't find us.
Oh, I know an island in the Virgin Islands you can go to.
Yeah, that's true. I was just nearby. As
I
it turns out,
I was doing fact finding on his island, and just
it's whatever. Not his island anymore, so you're allowed to go there.
Again, for those non-processed people like myself, one has to step back and remember the subpoenas may or may not happen, and there's technical reasons why it may or may not happen. They're not really very important. There's nothing there. This is all window dressing to show that we're doing something when in fact we want to do nothing. The important thing is that it's a story.
Yeah.
So, whether or not the Republicans find a way not to do the subpoenas, the story is that the Republicans voted for subpoenas.
Yeah.
And we're going to keep talking about that. And the more they don't do it, the more we're going to keep talking about it because we haven't reached resolution on this.
Yeah, that's basically it. And they didn't have a whole lot of options open to them. And one of them included a vacation. So which one are they going to go for?
So we'll take that.
Right.
I'm going to end my 20-minute section here with some polling information I just thought was interesting. Right. This is a Marquette poll, and they took it last week, but announced it yesterday. And there's some interesting things on it. Marquette's a very good poll.
Why did they delay? Okay.
MU Law. Well, because they want to put it together and get it right before they release it.
Well, who cares about correct? Yeah. What about that?
So Polling USA reports, this is among independents. Among independents only. The important group. The group that decide elections.
Yeah. People who used to be lying Republicans. All right.
Trump net approval.
Yes.
Border security, -4. That's the strongest point.
All right.
And again, this poll, like some of the others, separates immigration and border security.
Okay. Wise.
Immigration, -28.
So.
The economy, -34. That's Trump net approval.
It's the economy, stupid. It's -34.
Israel, Iran, -36. Well, bombing Iran will get them all this support. Remember 9/11 and Bush and how...
Yeah.
No.
It used to be minus 65. So how do we know?
No,
we're
I
not
told you
wrong?
at the time it's going to be like knocking off whatever his name was, Soleimani or whatever
Oh,
the
yeah.
Iranian general was, like 3 days later. Do you remember? It's not like doing Bin Laden. It's not like
Hmm.
9/11. Different time, different place. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Foreign policy, minus 48.
Hmm.
This is
Well, that's bad.
independence, the people who decide election.
Minus 48.
Tariffs,
Yeah.
minus 58.
Okay.
And what is the number one issue? If you ask anybody or everybody in any poll at any time, what's the most important issue?
Well, I always used to think the economy, but we already did that one.
Well, again, separating out border security and immigration. This is
Okay.
separating out the economy at minus 34
Yeah.
from inflation and the cost of living, minus 64.
Wow. Well, as you know, with math,
How do you
and
hit
Trump,
minus 64? You got to have Republicans hating you on that.
Yeah. Well, these are only independents. But
I
they're all
know,
secret
but if you're
Republicans
minus
sometimes.
64 with independents,
That's true. They're probably
and
talking
minus
to
99 with Democrats, you are not going to do well, even if 80% of Republicans think you're doing okay. I'm
and
just
they
saying.
don't. Right. So
That's the math.
that is interesting. I'm surprised that it is limited to 100%, as you know, with the
Well, it's a
price
Marquette
of
poll. It's not a Trump poll.
Oh, okay.
So
right.
in July,
Minus 1,500.
62% oppose deporting immigrants who are longtime residents.
In July, how many?
In July, which is this poll,
That's now.
62% oppose deporting immigrants who are longtime residents. They don't want to send away Carol from Missouri.
Right. Where is she? Do we know, what's
Missouri
her status?
at the current time, awaiting disposition. In July, 62% opposed deporting immigrants who are longtime residents with jobs and no criminal record, 38% in favor of such deportations. 38 is a slight decline from 42 last month. But for the most part, when people look at immigration and you ask them whether or not you should send these people away, they'd say yes.
Right.
So long as they're criminals.
Yeah. Or at least we should give them the opportunity to become criminals if necessary. Yeah, and
Right.
that was, by the way, that was part of the rug pull too, right? Is it, well, the fact that here illegally means they're criminals? No, it doesn't.
How is the rug pull going? In July, this month, 55% of respondents believe the U.S. is mostly deporting immigrants who have no criminal record.
Yeah, because what are they reading the newspapers?
Yeah, or something. Even if they don't read the newspapers,
We're gonna have to
somehow
fix that.
or other they're getting the information. By the way, a majority of Republicans believe Trump will decrease inflation. Majorities of independents and Democrats don't think so.
Yeah.
And the public remains skeptical Trump's policies will bring down inflation. Only 28% say it will. 60% say it won't.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. Greg Dworkin on his way out for the rest of the day, going to experience the outdoors, probably touch grass even, possibly, before it turns to 1,000,000 degrees tomorrow. Heat wave is supposed to be back in the east on Friday. And, wow, what can I tell you? What other news do we round up or things to explore further? Let's see. Well, there's any number of things socked away in Instapaper and a couple of other things that I opened while we were chatting. I happened to see via Blue Sky the Tennessee Holler, the good news folks, if you will, who have this bit. Is Tim Burchett, is he from Tennessee? Is that why they're paying attention to him? Because I don't know why else anyone would. But just in case you don't know, as I don't, I will check up on it. Yeah, 2nd District of Tennessee. Oh, look, this guy flip-flops back and forth between wearing a beard and not. So, there you go. He's a flip-flopper. Why is he being mentioned at all? Tennessee Holler has a very short video clip of 23 seconds or so, which I guess I don't have to play for you because they're telling us what it is. What is he saying? Tim Burchett admits Trump plans to reduce Ghislaine Maxwell's sentence in exchange for her testimony, which, of course, likely means that the testimony he intends to extract from her by sending the Department of Justice to interview this convicted felon, convicted of sex trafficking on behalf of Jeffrey Epstein. Strangely, though she will likely have to say, yeah, I'm a total sex trafficker, but Donald Trump was never there. Bill Clinton was all over the place. Please let me out of prison. And strangely, that may happen. So there you go. Do we want to hear him saying it? I guess we could try and do that. I don't know, 23 seconds. Oh, this is for interestingly, the Daily Caller News Foundation, which explains why there are weirdos that don't look like they're entirely comfortable in their suits and ties, but also wearing baseball hats, sitting around on what appears to be like the Capitol steps with Tim Burchett. I don't know whether we want to hear his voice saying it, but well, I guess I would like to know maybe how does he phrase that? How can I get that thing over to, well, I guess I'm going to have to rig this up and maybe email it to myself to move it over to the other computer. Since I used to be able to park it in Pocket, now I would have to park it in Instapaper, but I'm not sure. Did I install Instapaper on the big computer here or not? I don't know. Well, we'll do it via email instead. Gosh, this is a little clunky. But, I mean, it's not breaking news, but it's, interesting to see that somebody misunderstood the assignment to that extent that they would go and tell the Daily Caller, yeah, Trump is going to reduce Ghislaine Maxwell's sentence in exchange for testifying that he didn't do anything. Duh. Like, why are you saying that out loud? And what do you sound like when you do? How about if we do it that way? All right, let's see. Can we get this audio? It's probably going to take a couple more clicks. It's taking its sweet time getting there. There we go. Unmute it. Wow, okay, it's an outdoor gathering, so it's a little bit noisy. We'll rewind it. It's about 23 seconds. Let's go.
Government is saying it's filings that they don't trust.
Too low.
She's a liar.
No, she is a liar, and she's a dirtbag. And,
so then why subpoena her if you can't trust her?
Well, because the one thing we got holding over her head is if we find out she lies, she goes back to her original sentence, and that's looking at lifetime. And if she's looking at maybe parlaying this into reducing her sentence, then we could have some leverage there.
Interesting. That is some backwards ass thinking there. That's a good question. Why are you going to subpoena? This has to do with the House subpoenaing Maxwell as opposed to the testimony that they think Todd Blanche is going to get out of her as he visits her today. They are also going to try and subpoena her and make her testify before Congress so that they get to ask the questions, I guess, and try and engineer it such that she exonerates Trump, although, they know that Democrats are going to ask questions too, so I'm not really sure why they're doing things this way. But this is their bet. Well, why would you subpoena her if she's a liar and a scumbag, as Burchett says here? And then they say, so yeah, that's a good question. Why are you subpoenaing her if she's a liar and you think she's going to lie to you? Well, because we'll really get the truth out of her, because if she tells the truth, then the president will reduce her sentence. Well, no. If she lies, the president will reduce her sentence. But if she lies in a way that you like, then that'll happen. So in other words, we're going to subpoena her because we know that she knows that Trump will let her out of prison if she tells us what we want. Wink, wink, the truth. It's pretty ridiculous as a proposition all over. But, they're doing it out in the open, just as they're sending Todd Blanche out in the open, knowing this is the thing I was talking about right at the beginning of the show. It is right out in the open. You know who Todd Blanche is. I know who Todd Blanche is. 99% of the rest of the country probably doesn't know who Todd Blanche is. But if you could get them to sit down and pay attention and say, do you think it's really going to get you to the bottom of this situation to send Donald Trump's defense attorneys on behalf of the Department of Justice to go interview Ghislaine Maxwell and ask her, gee whiz, all cards on the table here, tell us what happened. Now it's interesting. She may think I'm so mad at Donald Trump that I'll spit out the truth and sink him, even though it means he'll keep me in prison for the rest of my life. Well, one, no, she's going to want to get out of prison. That's probably top priority for her. But what if she's, I've already, my life is finished. I don't care. I'm going to stay here. I mean, even if she did that and she spat out the truth about Donald Trump, wouldn't Todd Blanche, and they're not going to put this on live television, right? Todd Blanche comes out and says, yeah, I talked to her. She said he didn't do it. And how do we know that we don't know anything. He's going to say she didn't do it. Some people are going to say, I believe it. Others are going to say, I don't believe it. The people who are dangerous and weird and could make real trouble for, national security / law enforcement / normies going on about their business are going to be satisfied because they're conspiracy theorists and this is going to be self-reinforcing stuff. Donald Trump didn't do it. Bill Clinton did. That's what he says, she said. We accept that. The rest of us won't. 90% of the country won't, but the 90% that doesn't do things like storm the Capitol and try to kill the vice president. So, we go on as normal. Still plenty of food on the shelves, even though the prices are going up. Anyway, whether or not they'll ever subpoena her or let her appear, and I don't even know how they work that whole thing out. Oh, really? Congress is going to subpoena you for your testimony. Well, what if I say no? Well, then you'll go to prison. Well, what if I'm already there? Well, you'll go to prison for longer. No. Yeah, I don't know what the enticement is supposed to be. The only possible thing you can offer her of any interest is getting out of prison. So, what do you think the deal is going to be? It's really, like I said, it's really amazing that there are people who are not even, MAGA supporters necessarily, who are, to the extent that they know anything about what's going on, if you inform them, with a headline that the DOJ is sending somebody to talk to Maxwell to find out what she knows because we're trying to get to the bottom of this stuff, they'll actually read that and say, oh, good, the Department of Justice is trying to get to the bottom of this. But they're not. The Department of Justice is occupied with Trump supporters who will do anything to exonerate Trump and lie about other people to create liability that doesn't exist for them. How do we know it? And it's because we're watching it happen everywhere else in government. To switch topics slightly, but only slightly, that's what Tulsi Gabbard is doing. And I think you know that, and I think you've likely seen the stories about it and the headlines, even though we haven't paused to discuss it. But why don't we do that? And we can start with this piece from Mother Jones, if you want. I mean, you don't have a choice. David Korn, famous Mother Jones correspondent and columnist for a long, long time, D.C. bureau chief, in fact, who writes about what Tulsi is doing. And I mean, the basic fact of it, right, she came out and said, had a big press conference yesterday and has been gearing up for this thing and running up to it for several days now. I'm going to go out there and say, by the way, the whole thing, Russia hoax, still a hoax, but in fact, it was a hoax perpetrated, as Donald Trump said the other day on video. We didn't play his video, but I told you about his loony accusation. We have it. It's not even just evidence that Obama did this. It's like proof. You read the paper that we've gotten. It says it. Just says outright, Obama did a coup to me somehow. I wish he had. He didn't. The coup looked an awful lot like jumping out of the way and normalizing the transition to the first Trump presidency from the outside and the inside. So anyway, what's going on? Well, all the things that Donald Trump was accused of were really someone else. What do you know? It's amazing. Once again, of course, every Republican accusation is a confession, but what's the accusation? Tulsi Gabbard's dangerous disinformation campaign against America is the headline in Mother Jones. To David Korn's piece, the DNI shows how far she'll go to politicize intelligence to help Donald Trump. Remember when everybody was against politicizing, the DOJ, intelligence, etc., weaponizing government? That was what they were. Remember, they ran against that and they were going to totally stop that. But then again, they ran on getting to the bottom of the Epstein thing and they're totally against that as well. What a surprise. The Trump administration has launched a war on former Obama administration officials, and to do so, it has engaged in one of the most egregious and obvious acts of politicizing intelligence in decades. On Friday, Director of National Intelligence, that's what they call her, that's the office she literally occupies in every sense, Tulsi Gabbard, released formerly classified U.S. intelligence reports about the 2016 election that she said were evidence of an Obama administration, quote, conspiracy to subvert President Trump's 2016 victory and presidency. In a hysterical press release, and not the funny kind, she accused former President Barack Obama and his national security aides of having, quote, manufactured and politicized intelligence to lay the ground, that is to say groundwork, for what was essentially a years-long coup against President Trump. And everybody remembers the time they almost stopped him from taking office or removed him from power or any of those things. No, none of those things happened. No one knows what you're talking about. Describing this as a, quote, treasonous plot, she said she was forwarding documents to the Justice Department, famously non-politicized and open and fair Justice Department, presumably to initiate a criminal investigation on account of it being treason and all. Naturally, she went on Fox News to amplify her allegations against Obama and his advisors. It's all a fabrication. What's worse, her skullduggery appears to have been the catalyst for one of President Donald Trump's most disturbing and dangerous social media posts, an AI-generated video of Obama in the Oval Office visiting a smiling Trump, being manhandled and arrested by FBI agents and then tossed into a prison cell. Hardy har. Gabbard claims that the Obama administration and its top national security officials schemed to create and promote a phony intelligence finding to undermine Trump. On January 6, 2016, 2 weeks before Trump was to take his first term as president, the intelligence community released an assessment called an ICA that stated Russia had attacked the 2016 election with a covert hack and leak operation and a secret social media campaign designed to sow political discord in the United States, harm Hillary Clinton's chances, and help Trump win. Ever since, Trump has called the Russia story a hoax and each of the subsequent investigations a witch hunt. He calls everything a hoax and a witch hunt. As you know, Gabbard, acting much like a Soviet commissar, is trying to disappear that assessment and the taint it applies to Trump's 2016 victory. So on Friday, she released over 100 pages of documents that she insists show that the ICA was concocted to purposefully present the false finding to the public. But she is engaging in a sleazy sleight of hand. Gabbard offers her case in an 11-page memo that quotes excerpts of intelligence records from 2016. The first one is an August 16th document that was sent to James Clapper, then occupying the position Gabbard now has as Director of National Intelligence. It said, quote, there is no indication of a Russian threat to directly manipulate the actual vote count through cyber means. A September 9th record cites an intelligence official observing, quote, Russia is probably not trying to going to be able, that's what it says, to influence the election by using cyber means to manipulate computer-enabled election infrastructure. In other words, they're not changing the votes as they're being tabulated. And I think everybody agreed that they found that that was the case. But they did other things, which are also bad. A September 12th assessment published by the intelligence community noted, quote, foreign adversaries do not have and will probably not obtain the capabilities to successfully execute widespread and undetected cyber attacks on the diverse set of information technologies and infrastructures used to support the November 2016 presidential election. Following the election, Gabbard's memo points out, DNI Clapper's office concluded, quote, foreign adversaries did not use cyber attacks on election infrastructure to alter the U.S. presidential election outcome, unquote. Gabbard then delivers the j'accuse moment of this memo. The ICA, which was produced on Obama's order, said Russia had waged a clandestine operation to influence, it says to influence the operation. I assume the election is what they mean. Even though this previous intelligence report, or this previous intelligence reported, got it, quote, Russia lacked intent and capability to hack the 2016 election, unquote, and did not impact the election through cyber hacks on the election. This is getting dumb and confusing again. I knew it. Okay, we'll see if we can help straighten it out. This proves, she says, that the ICA was, quote, politicized intelligence that was used as the basis for countless smears seeking to delegitimize President Trump's victory, the years-long Mueller investigation, 2 congressional impeachments, high-level officials being investigated, arrested, and thrown in jail, heightened U.S.-Russia tensions, and more. Who are the high-level officials being investigated and thrown in jail? I don't know. The ICA was not the basis for the FBI investigation, which began months earlier and eventually morphed into the Mueller probe, nor did it trigger the first or second impeachment of Trump. More importantly, Gabbard is deliberately misleading the public about the intelligence she cites. And I assume he's going to get around to this, but I feel like compelled to do this right now because I'm annoyed at how confusing this gets. But Gabbard is saying the conclusion was drawn that Russia did not actually change votes, did not take Americans' legitimate votes, remove them, switch them to Trump, whatever, and then stick them back in the system and do so undetected. No evidence of that happening, right? But then, well, that's not the chief accusation. The chief accusation is that they interfered in the American political discourse through social media using bots and agents provocateur, etc., to sow disinformation and cause people to cast their votes in very dumb and wrongly informed ways in the first place. And they didn't need to change them to Trump because they were going and casting their ballots for Trump based on bullshit, which was the intent. Okay. Well, that's a very different thing. And, you know, to say it's essentially like saying, well, this person did not commit the murder at all. I know. Well, they're charged with breaking and entering. How did they do on the breaking and entering front? Oh, they did that one, but I'm not admitting that. The point is, some people say he murdered somebody and there's no evidence of that. I know there's no evidence of that. That's not what we're talking about. But, and I guess this is why you kept seeing this over and over again. Look, the question everybody wanted answered was, did Russia break in and change the votes? No, they didn't. But why is it so important to say they didn't do it by cyber means? Cyber means, that is to say, by means of the computer, right? Everybody else is sort of taking that to mean, oh, so they didn't do any computer stuff. But I thought you said that they were using social media to manipulate people and spread disinformation. They are. And I thought social media takes place on a computer. It does. Well, I thought you said computers weren't used in any of this. They weren't used to steal to change the votes because nobody changed any votes, but they used computers for other things. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there were no computers used because they didn't use cyber attacks against the voting system. I'm saying this stuff didn't even happen in the voting system. So, does it worry me that they used computers for that? No, because it's something totally different. Yes, but cyber. And we're all confused. We're supposed to walk away confused with all of this. All right. So where were we? The ICA's finding that Russia had clandestinely interfered in the election to assist Trump was a separate matter from another concern of the intelligence community, the possibility that Russian operatives would monkey wrench vote counting systems and throw Election Day into chaos. They did not. That had been a worry for the Obama administration throughout 2016 after it received reports that Russian intelligence had penetrated and probed election boards in several states. right? You get that information. What do you do with it? You say, well, I'm worried that they'll try and screw around with the vote counting. Even if they can't change votes, if they cause problems and delays, that's bad. Why don't we do what we can do to make sure that that doesn't happen? That's just good preparedness. But somehow that's actually a plot against a coup to overthrow Trump, who not only hasn't been installed as president yet, we haven't even held the vote on this. How do you, trigger a coup against somebody who hasn't even been elected yet? Anyway, that, as we say, had been a worry for the Obama administration, so they tried to do something about it. The prospect of a Russian cyber attack on the election system was the subject of intense intelligence reporting and analysis, and as the documents Gabbard released indicate, the intelligence community came to believe that Russia would not be able to rig election results. The ICA reported this, noting that the Department of Homeland Security had assessed, quote, that the types of systems we observed Russian actors targeting or compromising are not involved in vote tallying. Okay, good. They're involved, though, in something else, which is also bad, but not vote tallying. Yet in this memo, Gabbard applies intelligence reporting on the potential election tampering to an entirely separate issue, the Russian attack that included the operation that hacked Democratic targets and released their emails to impede the Clinton campaign, and that ran an influence operation through secret social media efforts to denigrate Clinton and boost Trump. These are two different matters. In fact, they're really three different matters. The conclusion that Russian cyber operatives were unlikely to impact the electoral infrastructure is unrelated to the assessment that the Russians were seeking to sabotage the campaign through covert action and a clandestine social media propaganda campaign. The person in charge of overseeing the U.S. intelligence community ought to know this, probably does, but didn't want to say so. Gabbard is engaging in blatant cherry-picking and gaslighting. And she's being sloppy with her subterfuge. Her case is easy to debunk. The intelligence reporting she cites does not contradict the ICA and does not indicate that there was a high-level plot to produce a bogus report to damage Trump. She is providing a phony and weak cover story for both Trump and Vladimir Putin, by the way, which the DNI is not supposed to be doing. Guess you didn't know. After all, long after the ICA was produced, the Mueller report and two congressional investigations confirmed that the Russians had assaulted the 2016 election, facts that Gabbard neglects to mention at all in her memo. When it comes to perilous conspiring, Gabbard is the guilty one. Oh no, I can't believe it. All accusations are confessions, especially when she suggests that Obama and his aides broke the law. Her moves follow similar conniving by CIA Director John Ratcliffe, who recently released a sketchy report attacking the ICA and referred former CIA Director John Brennan and former FBI Director Jim Comey to the Justice Department for criminal investigations. Ultimately, this is about rewriting history to serve dear leader and seeking vengeance on his behalf against those who dared investigate the Russian effort to help him reach the White House, an effort Trump aided by denying its existence. These endeavors to pervert intelligence demonstrate, and that's an advised use of the word pervert, intelligence demonstrate that the nation's spies services are being led by lackeys subservient to an autocrat who places his own interests above responsible concerns for national security. But they also supply fodder for Trump's never-ending and treacherous campaign to demonize his political foes and brand them as traitorous criminals who deserve to rot in prison. An intelligence community that serves a president and not the truth is a threat to the republic, especially when that president yearns to be an authoritarian. Spy services often conduct clandestine disinformation operations. These are supposed to target adversaries overseas. To prove her loyalty to Trump, though, Gabbard is running a devious disinformation operation, this one against the American public. Whoops, you're not supposed to do that. Okay, so, any way we could maybe prevent that from happening at some point? Maybe not. The more I think about it, the more I think it really would do us good to find and play the video of exactly how Trump was saying this stuff the other day from the doodad and Guga decorated Oval Office, but it's been a couple of days now, and it's like buried under the ever-growing archival record that Aaron Rupar puts together. And as it turns out, I don't know if I commented on it and reposted it at all on Blue Sky. I thought that might be an easy way to try and dig this stuff up. So why don't maybe what we need to do is take the 2-minute break and see if I can find it that way, because it really was rather remarkable. And it's possible that some of you haven't actually seen that video and listened to how crazy the Trump pronouncement is, and you might not believe, well, he's probably exaggerating. He's probably embellishing the comments to a certain extent. And probably I am, because, I don't remember word for word exactly what he said. But it was very like what I had said. But sometimes it pays to hear Trump say it in his own voice. I'll see if I can come up with it over the next 2 minutes. But if not, I'll make a note to myself to find that stuff, because it really has to be played. And if it has to be Friday, fine. There's certainly plenty of other things to move on to. Let's take a 2-minute break, catch our breath, see if we can find the video, and be right back. Hi, everybody. It's me, David. Let's change things up from the old fundraising pitch for just a minute and talk instead about how you can be a part of our show. If you've got a smartphone or any other electronic recording device, why not sit down and record a segment for us? Read us an important article and give us your take. Read one of your own original essays, or even just give us your commentary on something you'd like to share that's important to you. Then send the file to me at kagrox@gmail.com, and I'll try and work it into the show. Short segments, a few minutes in length, are easiest to fit in. And of course, I can't always guarantee that I'll be able to play everything, but if you've ever shouted at your radio or TV about something you wish was being covered, here's your chance to change that. Make the show your own. Send your submissions to me at kagrox@gmail.com. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Edwards Radio. I'm not certain one of the problems, Aaron Rupar provides a very valuable service, of course, documenting all of this stuff, but it is very, very difficult to comb through his record on social media and dig up exactly what you're looking for, because his volume is incredible, and I'm just not certain whether we're ever going to be able to find the one and only the exact video that I'm looking for here. There are a couple that contribute to the record in all of this, but you really should. Oh, here we are. I think I found the one. Now, how can I get this over to the big computer? Yeah, that's one of the problems too. I should have searched on there instead. But let's see. I've got this one, and is this not the same one as the other? We'll find out. We'll put them both in there, and they're two different ones. Okay, let's bump them over and see what we can do about playing them on the show computer. Just because, like I said, they're dumb. The stuff is garbage, but sometimes it pays to hear it in Trump's own voice, just so it's not subject to my embellishing it. Okay, the first one is the one I was thinking of originally, where he just starts going on about it. So the material he has is beyond mere evidence. It is in fact proof. And remember, we have talked about the difference between evidence and proof in the past, so it's a term of art. But of course, he's not using it artfully. All right, here we are. This is from, when was this? Today's Thursday the 24th, so Tuesday the 22nd in the afternoon. This posted by Aaron Rupar. Let's just roll it here.
But what we found is even more so. Now, we found this isn't like evidence, this is like proof, irrefutable proof that Obama was seditious.
Which, by the way, seditious is the thing I think he's going for here. But, it's Donald Trump. But just put that aside for just a moment. Listen carefully to what he's saying. Is we found absolute proof, not just evidence, but conclusive absolute proof that Obama was, I'm sure, seditious. Sedition. Really? This comes rather late and as a shock to most people, probably, but go on.
That Obama was trying to lead a coup, and it was with Hillary Clinton, with all these other people, but Obama headed it up. And, I get a kick when I hear everyone talks about people I never even heard of. It was this one. No.
What?
It was Obama. He headed it up. And it says so right in the papers. Got everything. This is the biggest scandal in the history of our country. And it really goes on to even the auto pen. But what we found...
No one even knows. So he's now stringing together everything he's got in his head. It really goes on to the auto pen. Auto pen? Really? You mean the accusation that Joe Biden wasn't signing official papers and using an auto pen instead, which is actually legal and not a problem, but whatever. How does that relate to Obama doing a coup? He did a treason and he did a coup. All right. We embellished it, made it sound a little bit more crazy, but actually when you hear his words, it's plenty insane. And maybe I even did him a favor, backing off a little bit on the insanity of the accusations he's making. And it's just again, old man Trump being fooled by anything that gets printed and put in front of him. We got it. It's in the papers, not the newspapers. It's in the papers, the report that they give me that said Obama did it. It says it, and it's not even evidence. It's proof. Really? What does it say? I don't know, but whatever it is that it says, it's very, very true. All right, and then there was another one, which I think was of some interest as well, and I guess comes from the same discussion, and I don't know whether it's before or after, in which a reporter asks, okay, so Gabbard has submitted a criminal referral. Who should the DOJ target? Which is a remarkable question to be asking the president. The correct answer to that one is, it's not up to me who the DOJ should target. We take the evidence and follow it wherever it leads. It's an independent thing for them to make a decision on. I try not to influence it. But, of course, in the Donald Trump administration, it's ridiculous to think that independence exists. They're very open and honest about it not existing. So asking the president, who do you think the Department of Justice should target is a hell of a question all by itself. Never mind what the answer is. But there is an answer.
Tulsi Gabbard has submitted a criminal referral to the Department of Justice. From your perspective, who should the DOJ target as part of their investigation? What specific figures in the Obama administration?
Well, based on what I read, and I read pretty much what you read, it would be President Obama. He started it. And Biden was there with him, and Comey was there, and Clapper. The whole group was there. Brennan, they were all there in a room. Right here. This was the room. This is much more beautiful than it was then, but that's okay.
Oh, my God.
I have nice pictures up. They came out of the vaults. They were in there for 100 years. This is much more beautiful.
By the way, why would you even bother interrupting with that? And how long the pictures were in a vault? Yeah. All right. Well, that's just, he's got nothing else to say, and this is what's in his brain. So, okay.
We have the Declaration of Independence now in the room, which wasn't here. I guess people didn't feel too good about putting it here, but I do. But you know what? If you look at those papers, they have them stone cold, and it was President Obama. It wasn't lots of people all over the place. It was them too. But the leader of the gang...
I'm sorry. This is just his scrambled brain trying to ad-lib this stuff. But it was President Obama. It wasn't all kinds of other people all over the place. It was them, actually. But it wasn't just them, you see. He's trying to say, no. It went all the way up to Obama, who did what? Exactly. I don't know. A treason. And it's in proof because it's in paper. And by the way, the paper was brought into this office where we're sitting right now, sitting very beautifully with our knees bent and on a chair, a beautiful chair that was in storage for What?
Was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life, that's the one they look, he's guilty. It's not a question. I like to say,
there you go. It's not a question.
Let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. You've seen some pretty rough countries. This man has seen some pretty rough countries,
I don't know,
but you've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, great. Okay, so pretty good job there with the word salad. I just wanted to let you know, exactly how scrambled his brain is. Not just the fact that it's word salad, but that he would think it's okay to say, it's all there, it's proof. He's guilty. We sometimes have trials in this country, I guess, where you prove things, but it doesn't have to happen because I read it, and look, it's all there. I read a paper that said Obama is guilty of a seditious treason, and what else do you want to know? It wasn't people all over the place, although it was them, but it was also him, and he did it, and now we have to. This office is so beautiful. Brain melted, running out of his ears. There's nothing left in this guy's head. But he's president. What can I tell you? We handed him the keys, and this is, as I was saying the other day, I don't know whether we made this comment on the air or not, but this is essentially what would happen. Like, if you told me this was an AI video that had been produced by asking, whatever, ChatGPT, who does it? I don't know. Can you ask ChatGPT, make me a video, or do you have to go somewhere else? I'm not experienced in using these things. I've used ChatGPT once to say, what if I wanted to write a letter that said something, to try to help with a job application. Okay, that's one thing, but like make me. I see people all over the place saying this is an AI generated video. Don't ask me. I have no idea. Where do you go? Say I want one of these videos. I don't want to do it because you burn up a lake every time you do it. But if you went to a AI thingamabob, whatever that F and F you would call it, and said, give me a video of what would happen if essentially when Grandpa, whoever, not Donald Trump, but if Grandpa in the nursing home has gotten to the stage where he's now accusing the staff of regularly robbing him. They're stealing all my money. I'm keeping it under my mattress, and I thought it was, but they come in every night and they rob me. The aliens do, right? And then instead of saying, oh my God, we got to get some medication or treatment or whatever, we need to be on full alert here. This is silver alert. Grandpa, unfortunately, is at that stage in his life. And we're just going to have to, we can't even argue with him anymore. We're just going to have to humor him at this point. It's the only thing we can do. It's the only way we can keep him comfortable for whatever remaining time he has left. But if instead of doing that, you took a different approach and said, Grandpa, you are now in charge of the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Department of Justice. They are at your command. Now you can get to the bottom of the aliens stealing your money, and said, go. And then, and told the FBI and the DOJ, I'm not kidding. If he says do it, you do it. We got to get to the bottom of the aliens stealing Grandpa's mattress money. Find out for me. I need to know. And release the Area 51 files while you're at it. This is what you would get. Except it is not AI video. It is real life. The President of the United States with nuclear missile launch codes and everything, in addition to command of the FBI and the DOJ, and no compunction whatsoever about politicizing them, is in fact using it to investigate his fantasies. And it turns out, what if the nurses in the nursing home were actually, for some reason, interested in saying, I am turning into an alien at night and stealing the money? He's right. He's got us dead to rights. And the whole world has to stand by and witness this happening. This is a 25th Amendment situation, except the problem is that everybody who's got a vote under the 25th Amendment says they're willing to go along with this. And we just don't know why. Anyway, let's see. there's a couple of other things I guess that we could say are related to this. Maybe this, I mean, I don't know whether this helps explain or not, but it's the nearest thing I can think of to a helpful segue from this. Amanda Marcotte and Salon magazine writing that the Epstein files, and I guess really at this point it's all merging now. I mean, his brain is melting so quickly that and everybody seems intent on conflating so many things that eventually all these things merge. Obama did a sedation because of Epstein is where we're headed eventually. The Epstein files give MAGA a post-Trump future. I am intrigued by what she possibly means about this. Even his loyal followers concede dear leader is getting quite old, and that seems obvious. But I'm curious what this theory is and whether I believe it or not. And I guess what the relationship is to what we've just been reading. All this stress Donald Trump is under, Amanda begins, appears to have caused him to confuse his old friend Jeffrey Epstein with his uncle. We did hear about that one. It's a weird mistake. Epstein was a convicted sex offender and accused pedophilic sex trafficker whose efforts at pretending to be an intellectual were embarrassing. John G. Trump, however, was a professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology who did genuinely good work fighting Nazis. So it's a weird thing to confuse. You're right. The only thing the two men have in common is that Trump admired them both, though in the only way he can admire someone, by talking about how their greatness, or with Epstein, a wonderful secret, reflects well on him. However, it appears that the 79-year-old president mixed up the two men when telling one of his digressive stories, this time about Ted Kaczynski, a.k.a. the Unabomber. I think that the connection there was Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where John Trump taught, is a highly respected institution, and Jeffrey Epstein pretended to be a highly respected scientific type mind and donated a lot of money to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and held some influence there. That's it. Plus, of course, Ted Kaczynski, Good Will Hunting, MIT, the setting for the movie, and I think that scrambled his brain even further. During a round table in Pittsburgh last week, Trump claimed his uncle taught Kaczynski at MIT, and that his uncle said the future terrorist was a seriously good student. This is not true. John Trump died in 1985, 11 years before Kaczynski was outed as the Unabomber. Plus, Kaczynski attended Harvard, not MIT. But Ted Kaczynski, the name, was mentioned in Good Will Hunting, where at least one of the people involved in the conversation did teach at MIT, two of them having graduated from MIT. So there you go. Where were we with this? Oh, yes. Trump's story sounds an awful lot like the fake story that Epstein used to tell, according to Stuart Pivar, another old friend of Epstein's, who gave an interview to Mother Jones in 2019. Quote, Jeffrey told me that he studied math at UCLA with the Unabomber, who was a math teacher. Pivar said, this is also not true. Epstein didn't go to UCLA and Kaczynski didn't teach there. Trump, no doubt, has been thinking a lot about his 15 years of close friendship with the now deceased sex offender. Some BS story he likely heard from his old friend bubbled into his brain, and he mixed it up with other BS stories he tells about his uncle. Despite the elaborate comb-over, heavy orange bronzer, and poorly applied makeup to cover his old man hand bruises, Trump's advanced age is getting harder for even his most loyal sycophants to ignore. His legs swelled so much recently that the White House even admitted that the self-described perfect physical specimen, that's a quote, has been diagnosed with a vein condition. But there's also the visible general decline. Though he's as loudmouthed as always, Trump speaks more slowly, that we've noticed, and his already tiny vocabulary has shrunk to the point where, in denying the provenance of a naked woman doodle he reportedly sent to his pal Epstein, Trump said, quote, I never wrote a picture in my life, unquote. And by the way, this too is a lie, with some links to demonstrating exactly how we know this and why. For MAGA influencers, the pressing knowledge that Trump won't be around forever must be frightening. It's not unusual for fascist movements to be incoherent in their ideology or goals, but with MAGA it's especially pronounced because Trump so thoroughly dominates and defines them through a cult of personality. If the movement is to survive, however, they need something other than Trump worship as a central organizing force. The best that most MAGA influencers have come up with is conspiracism. Spinning nonstop lies about secret cabals conspiring against Red America keeps their audiences hooked, and it also isolates them from reality-based society. The combination of nuttiness and alienation is their best bet for continuing the MAGA cult after the leader dies or ages out of his capacity to control them. This is one reason the MAGA movement has been struggling to obey Trump's increasingly panicked orders to stop demanding the Epstein case files. Even as major MAGA figureheads reassure audiences they don't believe Trump is in the files, many of them surely understand that fear is exactly why Trump is so desperate to make this story go away. If they were certain Trump would live for another 20 years, it might be easier for them to let go of the Epstein case. But they can't imagine he'll be around for long, and building their media empires for the post-Trump era means talking a lot about Epstein now because that's what audiences want. The tug of war between Trump and his base over releasing the Epstein files illustrates this larger tension, which is often buried in the shadowy declaration of absolute devotion to their leader from most of MAGA. On one hand, influencers like Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens need to show nothing but fealty to Trump, their untouchable godhead whose power is the only reason most of them even have a career. On the other hand, they need something to sell their audience once he's gone. Epstein conspiracizing is a linchpin because it's like printing money and it's a well they can draw from long after Trump has departed to the great big underage beauty contest in the sky. In recent days, the entire Gop has devoted itself to walking this impossible tightrope between keeping Trump happy and keeping the Epstein case alive enough to satisfy those MAGA influencers who profit handsomely from the conspiracy theories. The strategy has been to create the appearance that the Epstein files release is imminent while doing everything in their power to bury the documents. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson leads the pack in shameless liars. He told reporters he's eager for maximum transparency and called for the release of all credible files. In reality, Johnson's stonewalling has been so extreme that on Tuesday he adjourned the House a day earlier than expected before its month-long recess to stop yet another effort by Democrats to bring forward a bill that would force the FBI to release the files. Republicans are playing similar games with the testimony of Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's former girlfriend, who was convicted, of course, of child sex trafficking because of her years procuring minor victims for him to allegedly rape. House Republicans are making a big show out of how they want to subpoena her testimony, while Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who served as Trump's criminal attorney, is setting up an interview with her. As they well know, Maxwell has every incentive to cover for Trump, especially if she feels a pardon is on the table. The department's Maxwell gambit is about feeding the MAGA media's content mill without giving up anything, such as the reams of collected evidence in its possession, or anything more substantive. Trump's promise to release grand jury transcripts is more of the same. All experts believe there will be no new information in there, especially after all the names are redacted, and it's not getting released anyway, because it's grand jury material. Those efforts to throw a few crumbs at MAGA and call it a meal have shown mixed results so far. In the past few days, Kirk and other major MAGA media figures have dutifully shut up about Epstein, pretending to believe Trump's claims that full transparency is coming down the road. But there still seems to be a steady drumbeat of anger from everyday MAGA folks. They've spent years of their lives invested in the lie that Trump was going to release their fantasy version of the Epstein files, which they hope will put away everyone they hate, from Bill Clinton to Beyonce. On Tuesday, conspiracy theorist Alex Jones and podcast host Tim Dillon were right back at it, saying the White House's nothing to see here story doesn't make any sense. The clip immediately went viral, underscoring the economic incentives these influencers have to keep the Epstein chatter up. Trump is feeling the heat, demonstrated by his futile efforts to get his supporters to talk about anything but Epstein. MSNBC compiled a helpful list of all the nonsense Trump has put out to distract his followers. False suggestions that he's going to arrest a bunch of Democrats, including former President Barack Obama, threats to strip comedian Rosie O'Donnell of her citizenship, demands that major sports franchises revert to old racist names. He even tried to gin up a different Release the Files controversy involving Idaho murderer Brian Kohberger by falsely implying the judge in the case is engaging in a cover-up by letting the admitted killer plead guilty. What a great cover-up. But one of the most telling Trump distraction gambits was to release the classified documents about Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. The King family objected because they believe there's a lot more embarrassing information, some of which is likely untrue, in the files. The King documents are certainly important to one person, Charlie Kirk, who has a massive audience, which is too bad. I can't believe it. Kirk has been publicly reluctant to let the Epstein story go, even as he's admitted he wants to do so to please Trump. At 31, Kirk has positioned himself as the face of MAGA's future, holding numerous conferences for Republican youth across the country each year with his organization Turning Point USA. More than anyone, Kirk has to have his eye on what life after Trump looks like. A big part of his vision has been conspiracy theories, which he uses to bolster a more ideologically grounded argument for fascism built on overt racism and traditional gender roles. Kirk has floated the idea of rewriting the history of King to discredit the larger civil rights movement. He's not subtle about it either, boldly declaring, quote, "We made a huge mistake when we passed the Civil Rights Act in the 1960s. In recent years, Kirk has argued that King was, quote, not a good person and was, quote, awful. The strategy to demonize King is to dig up dirt about his personal life, including poorly sourced and likely untrue stories that King engaged in sexual violence. Kirk was ecstatic about Trump's release of the classified files, probably hoping he could trawl them for more dirt on King, true or not, that he can use for his propaganda. No doubt, Trump and his allies hope this will be enough to satisfy Kirk's need for conspiracy content as the waves how does this go here? His need for conspiracy content as the wave him off the, as they try to wave him off the Epstein files. All right, there's a word or two missing here, but there's good reason to be skeptical. Even the racist Turning Point USA audience likely has a limited appetite for speculation about King's sexual habits, much less convincing themselves to believe the third-hand reports of crimes from an organization led by J. Edgar Hoover, who had a well-documented antipathy toward the civil rights leader. I don't see why that would dissuade them, though. They have that antipathy. King is old news, especially for Kirk's younger audience, for whom the 1960s might as well be the 19th century. The Epstein case is more recent, and more of the people involved are still alive. Like all these influencers, Kirk may love Trump, but he also wants traffic to his site. And Epstein drives that far more than King. Trump's sweaty panic is no doubt mostly about memories of his time with Epstein and concerns about how much of that made it into the FBI's document collection. But there's an existential aspect to this that he, not being especially bright or reflexive, probably doesn't understand. Reflexive or reflective? I don't know. It says reflexive. This is also a story about his mortality. Thank God. Every day, Trump gets older in ways his base can't completely ignore. If they want their movement to continue after him, MAGA leaders and influencers need to build brands and power separate from the president and what serves his interests. The right-wing media mill needs content, and speculating about what's in the Epstein files provides it. Giving that up is going to be hard for MAGA, especially as they look at the aging Trump and realize he won't be around forever. Okay, we made it to the end. That's about all we'll have time to get to today. Instapaper still jammed full of things that we're going to need to make into a marathon Friday session. By the way, just because we have your attention and the show's still ongoing, we need to catch up on yet more exciting donor thank yous. Room 18 is the username of the person who joined as a sponsor over at Patreon. I added an extra tier, which I don't know, maybe was a mistake. I told you I added a $25 a month, $1 per show tier. I thought that was a nice place to start. And so many of you are, I'm sure, contemplating that. We already have a few people have signed up for it, but I recognize that, staring at that $25 a month thing has got to be, it's not for everybody. That's certainly true. And so I decided to put up an okay. What about 50 cents a show? Can you handle that? And I put that up at $12 a month. And we've had to take her on that one. Usually I don't call out the amount, but just recognizing that people are interested in and using the other tier. And it's there for you. If you have thoughts about, well, maybe I should be doing more than I'm doing, but I don't know if I can jump all the way to 25. Why not experiment with 12? It's there. Room 18, thank you for signing up for the new tier. Stephen Bradley also joining up. And you know what? Offhand, I'm not certain whether he jumped into either one of the tiers or not. Many of you have been subscribing via Patreon since we put it up. And apparently those tiers, I thought we created tiers at the time, but maybe not. If you are a longtime sponsor and you're thinking of perhaps boosting your contribution to the show, as Eugene did as well, then I will read your name on here. And thank you very much, and be thinking kindly of you this whole time. I appreciate it. We need to do more of this. We need to, do everything we can to support the show in the face of tremendous threats to our democracy and our way of life. By the way, also a thank you for Aaron Blair following our advice to subscribe to us on YouTube. All that stupid stuff you hate to see in those videos. Please subscribe, please like, please comment on the videos. All those things actually make a difference, and I hope you'll do them. And they're free.
Radio.com. You have been listening to Kagro in the Morning with David Waldman.
Time now, of course, to listen to Justice Putnam and the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Guess what's on top of the list today? Japan outplayed Trump in his big, beautiful trade war. We really got to get to the details of that, but maybe we won't have to. If we just listen in on what Justice has to say about what's going on there, we'll try and embellish it a little bit tomorrow. See you then.